Hey guys, it's Charles. I know you guys probably have seen Quest nutrition bars at your local gyms almost everywhere, but how did it get started? Today we are talking to Bilyeu, who is the co-founder of Quest Nutrition, the second largest private company grown into North America. He's also the co-founder of Impact Theory, which is all about empowerment and being the best version of yourself. So let's go talk to Tom. What's up everybody, it's Charles. I am super excited because, as you guys all know, I love Quest nutrition bars. They're almost sold everywhere, but today I get to talk to one of my favorites, Bilyeu. You're not only a co-founder of Quest Nutrition, which is like the second largest, fastest growing companies in North America, but also the CEO of Impact Theory, which I'm really excited to dig deep into because it's all about the human potential, giving people the tools to be the best version of themselves, right?
Yeah.
So I want to know kind of like how you start your day. Like, what's your process, Tom?
I'm super freaky about that. So I am wildly undisciplined by nature. I am super lazy by nature. And so a lot of my habits and routines are to combat that. So I think that a morning routine starts the night before. So I'm really hardcore about what time I go to bed. So I go to bed at 9 o'clock every night.
Every night?
Monday through Friday, in fairness. I guess technically Sunday through Thursday night. And then Friday I'll start to change my schedule up in the evening a little bit.
Okay.
And then Saturday is a free fall and I go to bed when I want. But for the most part, it's in bed at 9 every night. And I do that so that I can sleep as much as I need to without setting an alarm. I haven't used an alarm for more than a few times in a year for almost 15 years at this point.
Wow.
So I prioritize sleep. I get as much sleep as I need. I wake up when I wake up. My average is probably somewhere between 6 and 7 hours.
Okay.
Occasionally I'll get less and occasionally I'll get more, but that's about where I settle out. And then I give myself 10 minutes to get out of bed because I have a propensity to lay in bed. Because I wake up really slowly. So when I first wake up, man, I am groggy. My wife looks at me like an alien because she wakes up with so much energy and I need like an hour.
Yeah.
So I give myself 10 minutes, I get out of bed, my gym clothes are right next to my bed, put my gym clothes on, immediately go to the gym because I hate the gym.
That's the easiest thing though, right? If you don't want to go to the gym, you got to just prepare yourself. Have your gym bag ready so you don't have to even think and just go. But you have a gym right here, so you can just go straight.
That makes it easier, but this was my routine even when then it was, pile into the car and drive off. And I would make sure that I had a gym that was close. So my goal was to always be in the gym within 15 to 20 minutes of waking up.
So you like working out in the morning? Some people are. Okay.
I
like
have
endorphins?
Nope. I don't think I get endorphins. So like when I watch my wife work out and she actually looks like she's having fun and she's like dancing to the music and having a great time, I'm like, this is not my experience. So my experience is one of pain and endurance and making it through to get to an end result that I want.
Okay.
Which partly, by the way, is mental. It's earning that credibility with myself of doing something that's hard that I don't necessarily enjoy for an outcome that's important to me.
You talk a lot about this in some of your past interviews about pain and using it to teach you something and pushing beyond. I want to hear more about your perspective on pain because some people kind of shy away from it. What is your perspective on pain?
Well, I'll give you two things that I think everybody should dive into to really learn about the nature of pain. And that's one, David Goggins, who is just an extraordinary human being who set all kinds of endurance records. And then a book called Endurance, which is about Ernest Shackleton and a group of men that tried to be the first people in 1915 to do a trans-Antarctic expedition from east to west, if I'm not mistaken, across the continent of Antarctica. And it becomes a test of will, unlike anything I've ever heard in my life. It's absolutely insanity. And when you realize just how far the human animal can be pushed and survive and thrive, and then how that changes your perspective of you and what you're capable of, then suddenly pain is not something to avoid, it's something to use. And so my thing is, humans are the ultimate adaptation machine. And by a cruel twist of fate, the way that we adapt is by putting ourselves under extreme stress. And so if you want to learn something, you've really got to dive into it. You've got to push yourself, take yourself to the edge of your capabilities. And it's only there that your body goes, okay, adapt or die. And same physically, right? So I know you lost over 100 pounds. You're in amazing shape, by the way.
Thank you, thank you.
And you well know that you don't get there by not thinking about it or just doing whatever. You get there by being very disciplined, by pushing past pain, by not eating even though you want to, you know, and completely changing what you eat. Yeah. So in that process, if you're willing to face the, you know, denying yourself your every impulse, you know, for me, like, I would love to eat a bowl of ice cream with every single meal. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
But not doing that is how I get the end result. So being able to push through pain, I think, is really how we evolve ourselves and get where we want to be.
And the mental state. So meditation, I know this is something that you do in your routine, right? Talk about what type of meditation do you do? Why do you find that clarity important to bring to your everyday life?
So I'm about cognitive optimization. So I'm about that, like, as a, what am I trying to do with my life kind of thing. So I really believe that the meaning of life, for lack of a better phrase, is to see how much of our potential we can actually actuate. Like, how much of it can you bring to fruition? So we can all do extraordinary things, but do we? Do we actually do the things we need to become capable of the extraordinary? So that's a big thing for me, and that all starts with optimizing your mind. And so to get the best out of your mind, you've got to eat right, and you've got to push your body. That's just the way that the human animal works. So that's a really big deal for me. And then I started meditating because I struggle really with profound anxiety. And I just found, I'd heard enough people say that, hey, if you're struggling with anxiety, then try meditating. And I finally because I didn't want to do it. It just felt very soft, and which is stupid, by the way. It was such a dumb way to look at it. Yeah. And then I met a Navy SEAL, a guy named Mark Devine.
Yes, I saw your interview with him.
Yeah,
so amazing.
He was like, dude, will you just meditate, for the love of God? He's like, it takes you out of the sympathetic nervous system, which is fight or flight, and it moves you into the parasympathetic nervous system, which is rest and digest. So hearing such a tough as nails guy give me the science behind it, I was like, yeah, I'm being an idiot. So let's just start doing this. And so I use his Just Breathe practice. It's a box breathing method. Now, the way he teaches it isn't the way that ended up feeling right for me. And he says 4 equal sides. So you've got the inhale hold, the exhale, and the exhale hold. And for him, all 4 parts should be of equal duration. That just left me feeling out of breath. So I just said, well, I'm going to maximize the pleasure of each part of the breath cycle. So for me, it's each part is unequal, but it feels amazing and really does put you into that calm, creative state. It's an alpha wave brain state. So if you've ever gotten lost in thought in the shower, that's an alpha wave brain state. So meditation allows me to do that. And no matter how extreme my level of anxiety, if I meditate for enough time, it goes to 0. So even at times where my life has just been absolutely stormy emotionally, and even, you know, after 20 or 30 minutes, I'm able to get to 0. So, and then normal, like, day-to-day stuff is literally 45 seconds, a minute and a half, and I'm completely calm.
I love it. I love meditation, and that was definitely one of the key things that helped me transform my life, that self-awareness, kind of like understanding what your inner child and all that stuff. Because I think when you reach for the ice cream, it's not the ice cream itself. It's like, why are you going to go reach for it if you're already full or something, right? What's that? Like, why are you trying to stuff yourself? What's that deep emotion that you're hiding or not wanting to feel? So I love that approach. What about food, Tom? Like, what are you eating? I know, like, I don't prescribe to any diets or anything. Is there anything that you do that makes you feel good? Are you taking any nootropics or supplements because you're all into cognitive performance? Like, I want to know what's going on. Or what are you experimenting with? What are you excited about?
So I'm pretty, like, basic when it comes to my diet. The one thing, meaning I stick to whole foods whenever I can. Yeah. And look, that's the guy that co-founded Quest saying that. And that was always our mantra at Quest, is if you call and said, hey, what should I eat for optimum health? Our answer was boiled chicken breast and steamed broccoli, right? Yeah. So just keep it nice and simple, really healthy, whole food. Yeah. But when I don't, then, you know, I'll eat other things. And I always hesitate to say this because it sounds so self-serving, but honestly, Quest, I eat a lot of Quest products. And
what's the favorite Quest nutrition bar?
Bar is, for me, the chocolate chip cookie dough, which is nice and straightforward, or the white chocolate raspberry. I love those both. Okay. But honestly, I hardly eat those at all anymore, and I'm way way into the cookies. Have you had the cookies yet?
No, I've seen it. I've
good.
seen it. Okay,
They're
I'll grab one.
Very good.
That's why I think I'm staying away, because I'm like, when I first had a Quest bar, like I was eating them all the time. I'm still eating them.
The cookies will mess with you. They're ridiculous.
Yeah.
So those I definitely eat. But fat changed my life. So I avoided fat. So I used to be about 30 pounds heavier. I was 230 pounds. Sorry, 60 pounds heavier. I was 230 pounds at my heaviest.
Oh, wow.
And in losing the weight, I basically went on a rabbit starvation diet. So ultra high protein, ultra low fat, no carbohydrate.
And you were a runner in high school or growing up.
I was a runner in high school and hated it, but yes.
But you were like the biggest cheerleader. I remember reading about this.
I was. Yeah, very impressive, by the way. That's not something I've talked a lot about. But so, yeah, I ran in high school and I was heavy and my thighs were so big they rubbed together till they bled, which is not pleasant, by the way. I was the slowest person in the league, not even on my team, in the league. And then my senior year, I just said enough is enough, and I'm the slowest because I don't try hard enough, and that's just the truth. And so, what
you said in an interview really triggered something. When you're the slowest in something, it's not because you can't; it's because you're lazy.
100%. There's just no question.
Yeah.
So in my senior year, I'm not even sure what happened, but I decided that I wanted to try for the first time in my life. And so I was just going to push myself and see what happened. And so every race I tried to get faster, and I did. Literally every race I got faster. And so my senior year, when most people have sort of hit their optimum, I was most improved. So I went from, last in the league to, I don't remember where I finished. It was not in the top, but
you were not last.
I wasn't last, and I made huge improvement. And it really showed me that when you push yourself, you get the results. And so that was great. In my senior year in high school, I started to lose weight. Pretty profoundly. And then when I went to college, I was so hell-bent to get good grades that where most people put on the freshman 15, I lost like the freshman 35.
Yeah, I read in your interview what you didn't party. You were so focused. You got into film school, USC, which is one of the top film schools in the world and really, really hard to get into, even than like Harvard Business School, right?
Statistically speaking, there are, and I'm always like careful to point that out. But statistically speaking, you're more likely to get into Harvard Law than you are into USC Film School.
Yeah, and talk about your failures, because I love that you're so candid and you talk about your failures. You talk about how I failed miserably on the track team, and then getting to USC, feeling like on top of the world, and then creating your thesis project where it just bombed, and you're just like, shit, like this, I'm not that great at this. And talk about that, how that led you to different things and how we can learn from failure.
Yeah, so the thing that always bothers me is people see my success and then they discredit themselves by making me special. So they say, well, you're special, of course you can do that. And showing somebody that I used to be overweight is really easy. And then so you can show them the heavy picture and you show them the abs and they're like, oh! But like, how do you show them the mind? Right? So it's really hard to get people to understand, no, truly, profoundly lazy, scared of everything, lost, flirting with depression. I just did not know how I was going to do anything with my life. And like you said, I had this moment where I went to film school and I was just so just determined to get in. And I put all my will into getting in, and then I got in. And the first half of film school, I just smashed it, man. And I was just doing really well. And I was moving up, and only 4 people get chosen to do a senior thesis film, and I was one of the 4. So by the time I get chosen for the senior thesis film, my self-narrative is I'm naturally talented. Like, you've got this, you're just better than most people, you were born to do this. Like, this is all the stuff that's repeating in my head, and I feel really good about myself.
You were like, I'm going to be rich.
100%. I'm going to do my senior thesis. I'm going to get the 3-picture deal. I'm going to be rich. I'm going to be famous. It's going to be incredible.
Yeah.
And then I do my senior thesis, and I bombed in such a public and embarrassing fashion you can't imagine, where it goes from I'm like the one everybody thinks is going to go on to do something, and then it's like I'm the laughing stock of the class.
Yeah.
And people were literally cutting bits of my film together, like as joke reels, to make fun of it.
I heard you.
That's how bad it was.
Yeah, that master. Nobody has that copy. Where is it right now?
It's literally, my wife just found it, so it is in this house.
One day you will show it to everyone.
I doubt that very much. Maybe as like an example of just how far I've come, but it was devastating, and I really want people to know. So I do that realized that I don't have talent, but at the time felt that meant I wasn't worth anything. And so now believing my whole identity has crumbled, and now I've graduated school, so I don't even have structure. And so I'm out in the world. I don't have a film to show people that I can do it. And this is back in the late 90s, so a no-budget film is $100,000. I didn't know anybody with $100,000. I never met anybody that had $100,000. So I was like, I don't know how to do this, and just felt utterly hopeless. And so I was moving towards depression, and the only thing that saved me, and I didn't have the right words for it back then, but was a growth mindset. And I realized if I go down this path and believe that I can never do anything, that I'm talentless and will always be talentless, then I'm done. And so I need something else. And at the time, it was really debated that maybe, just maybe, the brain was plastic and that you could learn things even as an adult. And I started teaching film, and because those that can do and those that can't teach. So I thought, perfect, I'll teach. And in teaching, I realized, wait a second, I'm able to make the students' films better. So why can't I make my films better? And could I push myself and learn and do that level of discipline that had gotten me into film school? Could I apply that to getting better, and is that a real thing? And so reading about brain plasticity, and this began my obsession with learning about the brain, because I needed to know it was real. I didn't want to fool myself. So in reading about the brain and choosing to believe that the people that said that you can learn things were the right ones, because there were people at that time saying, no, you can't. And so I said, okay, I'm going to choose to believe this one because it's empowering. And then that leads me to what is now called a growth mindset, and it just changed everything in my life.
And you speak also about doing things for passion, because I know that after you left teaching, you went into tech with some of your friends. It was a successful business, but you just felt you didn't want to go to work. You were just like, I'm not passionate. I quit. I want to do something else. And that's where you started Quest Nutrition based on something that's passion. And then now starting Impact Theory, which is like the next level of your journey, empowering other people, right? So talk about Impact Theory and talk about why it's so important to do things that you actually believe in.
So going back to what you were asking before about, why are mistakes important? What can we learn from failure? And failure is the single most information-rich data stream you'll ever encounter. And it hurts, and it's emotionally difficult, but there are two weapons that we have in our fight to improve as people, and that's pleasure and pain. And most people want you to either focus on one or the other. And my thing is when you only have two weapons, to not use them both. So when you fail, it's going to hurt, and people should lean into that, and they should accept, I failed at this, I didn't do what I set out to do. Leverage that to push you to learn, not to beat yourself up, not to feel worthless, but just to not want to feel like that again. That's a really powerful impetus. So I've learned and trained myself over and over that when I fail, one, to just look for the lesson, and two, to let it hurt and let it sting, and to remind myself I don't want to be here again. But you need to be pushing yourself forward. So I have an 80-20 rule. So I only ever spend 20% of the time hurting, feeling bad, thinking any negative thoughts, focusing on the chip on my shoulder. The 80% of the time, I think about the things I'm grateful for, that I'm excited to build, that fill me with passion, that give me a sense of fulfillment and wonderment, awe. Awe is arguably the most profound emotion any of us will ever experience. And so to find things that leave you in awe, and then to make that the core of what you do with your life, is very possible, and I want everyone out there to understand that that really is possible. Most people just don't think it is. And so the things that fill them with awe, the things that give them the most joy, that give them energy, that they love doing, that they do whether they're getting paid or not, they don't think there's a way to make money at that. And especially now, there may not be a way to get rich at it, but there's almost certainly a way to make a living at it now with the internet, where you can find other people that think like you think. And so it's just incredibly powerful. So going into technology and realizing for the first several years it was building me up because I was learning so much about business, and then it began to tear me down because it was taking energy away from me because I didn't care about it. I didn't care about the product. I wasn't connecting with the customer, which are all things that fill me with energy. And so I needed to focus on bringing value. I needed to focus on community and connection, being authentically myself. I remember at the time I said, I just want my real personality to come through, because this is all before people are talking about authenticity and connection. Social media isn't even called social media at the time. So I'm going through this in silence. There is no social media. There's no way for me to find a tribe other than the people that are around me. So it was me and my wife, and I was just so unhappy. And I felt like I couldn't confess it to my partners because I'd been lying to myself, quite frankly, and them for years, saying that money was my highest priority and that I was willing to do anything within my code of ethics to make money and to make the company successful. And I just hit a breaking point. I'm like, this isn't fun. Like, the struggle is guaranteed, the success is not. And so we built the company up, and on paper I was worth like about $2 million. And I brought my partners into the conference room and I said, I quit, here's your equity back, I can't do this anymore, I need to go do something that makes me feel alive. And long story short, they were like, look, we could do this without you, but we don't want to. And that let me connect to something other than the money. It let me connect to the brotherhood, which was the thing that drove me. Camaraderie to me is far more valuable and interesting than the money. And so for 3 very different reasons, we all agreed that we didn't want to keep doing something we didn't care about, and we set out to build a company predicated entirely on value creation, about being passionate in the moment about what we're building, to be authentic, to build community, and that just became my obsession. And I was like, I don't know if it'll build a big business, but I really believe that, again, it wasn't called social media at the time, but like social media is going to be this thing. It's going to be a megaphone. It's going to allow me to connect and to find people that think like I think. And so we just went all in on it. And honestly, at the time, what we kept saying is, look, we may be about to waste all of our money and everything that we've worked so hard for, but we're going to have a great time doing it. We're going to believe in what we're doing. And then just, I mean, you know the story. So it's like you have this wave of people that are really becoming aware that what they eat matters. You have this wave of people flying into social media. And then you have us right at that nexus, making something that's metabolically real. That for me, I grew up in a morbidly obese family. So I was like, I'm only interested in doing something that's actually going to help my mom and my sister. And that was just my true north. And so when we had a decision to make about an ingredient that was more expensive, which meant it was going to lower our profit margins, so I was going to get less rich, but it was going to help my mom or my sister, it was very easy. Do that.
Yeah.
And in doing that, then people,
yeah.
right, 100%. And then people could resonate with that, right? They understood our mission. We're here to end metabolic disease. It's not just about making a bunch of money. And so it just resonated with people, and we just grew insanely, insanely fast. But the most important part, the punchline is, I began loving my life. And that is, like, the goal of anyone's life is not money, it's not success. It is 100% what you think about yourself when you are by yourself. It's about deep fulfillment with what you're doing, how you're being of service, how you help not only yourself, but other people.
Yeah, inner peace. That's to me, like, if I can go to sleep at nighttime knowing that I'm proud of how I treated other people, how I give value, how I love myself and my life, that's true success to me.
Dude, I'm with you.
Next level, so that's where you actually honed in at Quest. You honed in inside Quest. That's when you started the studio. You worked with Mike, I think that's our common friend at YouTube. And then you started hosting and interviewing people, and then talk to me about impact theory. Now you're getting into intellectual property, cartoon animation. Like, what's going on? Tell us.
So I've worked in the inner cities a lot. So this started when I was 18. I took an extra credit assignment that was supposed to be an 8-week program with this little kid who was a troublemaker in class. So basically, they just wanted to get him out of class. But it was going to give me extra credit, so I did it. And then at week 6, they tell you, hey, make sure that you warn them that you're only coming for 2 more weeks. And he was like a problem. He's always fighting with other kids, and like he wouldn't do his homework. And so I'm like, for the first hour, I'm just fighting with this Tasmanian devil. Literally. I mean, this kid was like out of his mind. And then he would start crying and like, please no, help me with my homework. I'm going to get in trouble. And so I'd end up staying for an extra hour. And I start realizing this kid is trolling me. Like, he's actually really smart.
Yeah.
He freaks out for the first hour. And then for the second hour, when I'm like, I'm leaving, he's like, look, I'll do it. I'll do my work. And then he would.
That sounds like me when I was little.
It's very smart. It's a good strategy.
Yeah.
And I told him, look, this is exhausting. So when I told him at week 6 I was only coming for 2 more weeks, he went nuts. Like, nuclear, freaking out. It was unlike anything. As a guy with no younger siblings, I was like, I've never seen a human being act like this. It was total mania. And so I said, is this about me not coming anymore? And he said, yes. And I said, all right, look, I'll make you a promise. As long as I live in Los Angeles, I will come and help you with your homework. As long as you do it from the moment I get here. Is that a deal? And he said, yes. And that turned into an 8.5-year relationship. I big brothered him, and ended up not being about homework anymore, and just like about giving him a vision into a different way of life. And he didn't have a father, and so it just ended up being really transformative, certainly for me. And
Did you have him on the show yet? Or?
No. So that's another long story. So I actually lost contact with him. So
Okay.
he was being abused in his home, which I unfortunately didn't know.
Okay.
And when he got taken out of his home, he named me the guardian of the court. So I had to help him through the court system and into foster care. And then I kept seeing him even when he was in foster care, but they kept moving him farther and farther away. And at the time I was broke, and I didn't have time to travel 2.5 hours to see him. So he reached out one time. And then we just were never able to connect. So that is like one of the biggest heartaches in my life, is that I didn't set him up for success. And I was young and stupid and going through my own trouble. He's with me through all the like depression and all that. So I was not in a place to be able to help somebody become the man that they were meant to be, much to my dismay. Yeah. And then I flash forward, 12 years later or something, and I'm at Quest, and now I've got 1,400 employees, and about 1,000 of them grew up hard in the inner cities, and working with them and seeing how extraordinary they are, but that their mindset was holding them back. And that was the same thing that was the problem with Rashawn, was the young boy's name. Mm-hmm. And they just had belief systems about what was possible in their lives that kept them from ever trying to do anything. And I remember one time Rashawn told me he wanted to be in the NBA, and I was like, but you don't practice basketball. And so that was so obvious to me and so not obvious to him. And so I just thought, you're never going to get in the NBA unless you're practicing. So that became like my obsession, was to show people the chasm that I crossed from being near depression, not knowing how to create momentum in my life or to do the things that I wanted to do, believing that you're either naturally talented or you're not, and then getting to where I am today, was realizing that humans are the ultimate adaptation machine. We can learn anything, but it's all about discipline practice. So I wanted to create a show inside of Quest, which is how it got its name, to show my employees you can do anything you want, but there are certain beliefs you're going to have, certain mindset you're going to have. And I thought, if they just hear it from me, it's like hearing it from your dad all the time. You begin to tune it out. Yeah. I thought, if I can bring on other people that are very successful, people that are exciting to them, and they hear the same things over and over and over, maybe they'll really believe that it's possible. And that ultimately gave birth to Impact Theory.
Love it. So what's the next step? Like, what are you doing with
so that really brings it all back around. Yeah. So I understand that what I'm doing now, like this interview, is the intellectual equivalent of telling people to eat less and exercise more. Mm-hmm. It'll work, right? You know that. You've seen it transform your own life. You've seen it transform countless others. Yeah. But at the same time, there's some people that just aren't going to go for it. Yeah. So eating less and exercising works for a very narrow band of the population, but it doesn't work for the masses. Yeah. And so at Quest, what we understood was, to address the masses, you've got to make food that they can choose based on taste, and it happens to be good for them. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So what's the mental equivalent of that? And the mental equivalent of that is stories. And so the way that humans really change their mindset is by falling in love with the story, either that their parents tell them about an uncle or a grandfather or themselves, whatever, but that story becomes part of like the family lore, and so they look up to it, and they admire their father or their grandfather or whoever it is that's character, and they want those traits. Mm-hmm. If you don't have that, the thing that becomes your beacon are characters that you resonate with, that you see in a TV show, in a movie, in a comic book. So what we want to do is influence the cultural subconscious by telling stories that are entirely empowering. So the example I always give is, Disney is the only movie studio that's ever had the discipline to only tell one kind of story from 1,000 different angles. And in doing that, the brand itself means something. It stands for something. So if I say I'm going to go see a Warner Brothers movie or a Paramount movie or a Sony movie, you don't know anything about it. Mm-hmm. But if I say I'm going to go see a Disney movie, you already know something about it. I don't even have to tell you the title. Yeah. So we want to have the discipline to tell only one kind of story. So if Disney created the most magical place on earth, we want to create the most empowering place on earth by creating these stories that always empower people. That if it's made by Impact Theory, whether it's social content or whether it's a movie or a comic book, that it's going to be empowering.
I love it. So good. Stay tuned, and you guys got to watch Impact Theory, the show. I mean, I love all your interviews because you dive so deep into it. And yeah, you're just such a great interviewer.